Stein, and I love video games.
I'm the Megabuck, and I really love video games.
And I'm Raph, and I love video games.
And welcome to the Game Treasure Podcast, where we discuss treasured video games of yesterday, today, and tomorrow. Mr. Venacor cannot be with us this week, unfortunately, but you know what that means. In his absence, we always receive one of Venny's bonus rounds. So we'll be playing that later. But besides that, this week, we have an interesting show. Today marks the release of Princess Peach Showtime for the Nintendo Switch, the new platformer side-scroller game where you control Peach in a series of cute costumes.
Looks awesome.
As opposed to the kind of offensive game she was previously in, where all of her powers are based off of her emotions, how much she cries as a lady.
Yeah.
And we're going to be doing a
forgot that.
retro roundtable this week. I wanted us to play the very first game in which you can play as Princess Toadstool. That's right. We are going to be discussing Super Mario Brothers 2.
Yeah.
Or if you're from Japan, you might call it Super Mario Brothers USA.
that
More on
really
that
what it was
later.
called?
That's really
More
what
on
it's called.
More on that
That's
later.
But
crazy.
more on that later. But first, gaming news. First thing that I wanted to cover, there was a leak. Sony's leaking. Somebody get him a diaper because the specs for the PS5 got leaked
The Pro.
just recently. The PS5 Pro, I'm sorry, thank you, Buck, were leaked, rumored to be targeting this year's holidays. This bad boy, I'm gonna list off some of the stats, some of the
Cool.
hilarious jargony stats, right? 45% more rendering power than the PS5. That's pretty simple to get.
That's a big
It
number.
supports 8K,
Yeah, that is.
8K resolution, which
Wow.
is, I guess people
Who
are
owns
just
a
going to start.
TV that can do that?
Just
I don't know.
It's going to be, and you want to talk about overkill? It's got 33.5 teraflops.
I was just looking at that.
Whatever
I'm
that
like,
is, whatever that means.
teraflops.
You're a That's right. Sony has teraflopped their wiener on the table and said, "This Christmas, prepare to send $700 on the 8K
Oof.
PS5 Pro."
Can I get
I
one
don't know if
that's
that's
just
the actual
smaller?
price points.
Can I get one that's just smaller form factor than this one and has
The-
the same power?
Yeah.
One that's only 16 teraflops. I just need the 16 teraflops for me.
And
I
doesn't
saw
leak.
the there's images online and the form factor looks nicer. I'll tell you that. If they can, if that is the form factor that they actually go with, that would be the biggest selling point of this whole entire thing, honestly.
No,
I
it's
mean, it
gonna
looks
look
like
like
a
Perry the
slimmer
Platypus to mix
PS5,
mix with the Dr. Doofenshmirtz PS5 we have now.
Now the
Have you guys never seen the meme where it's standing up? It looks like it has a lab coat, and they put Dr. Doofenshmirtz's head on top of the PS5, and it looks like Dr. Doofenshmirtz.
That's so good.
Phineas and Ferb. Oh, so
Evil
good.
Incorporated.
It's my PlayStation
so Buck,
enator.
you're the only person that. Oh no, Larry the Platypus wants to play Far Cry. You're the only one with a PS5.
Yeah, Benny's got one too.
Geez. Here, well, yeah, I know, but he's gone.
Boo.
So
It's gone.
in February, Sony announced that they basically did a press release that said, "Do not expect any good first-party games to be coming out this year." Period.
Mm-hmm.
They made that announcement in February.
Wild.
So, are you buying a PS5 a PS5 Pro for Christmas to replace your PS5?
No. What? No.
Would you?
Why would you?
I probably
Why would
play.
you?
Probably play more PS5 by using the link tether feature on my Steam Deck, like the PlayStation Portal and can do. The Steam Deck can do it too. I'd probably play more like that. So I don't need any of that. That's silly.
Wait, you can do that with the Steam Deck and the PS5?
Tell me
that's
something
new,
you
right?
want it to do, and
didn't
the
know.
Steam Deck can do it, baby.
So yeah, PlayStation, Sony, good luck. Good luck with selling your most likely going to be hugely expensive next gen console this early on in the life cycle.
I mean,
of
there's
your
a lot of
shit.
people
Who thinks it's going to be dead in the water?
That's
There's
what
a
I'm
lot-
asking.
No, there's a
Yeah.
lot of people that didn't buy, like you guys just said, 50% of us don't own a PS5. So you're going, okay,
This is
great.
true.
Now, do I buy the regular PS5 or do they buy the newest one that came out? So I think that'll still sell. It's
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, that's true. There were people that couldn't get a PS5 before,
Right.
like when it was
I,
completely unavailable for a long time.
I'm not gonna lie. I'm about 10 hours into 7 Rebirth, and while it is
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
absolutely gorgeous, as someone who also plays a lot of games on the PC, I notice a frame rate dip between like enclosed areas and like outdoor areas. And not in a bad way, like, oh my God, it looks bad, but I can tell that it's running like, 100+ frames when I'm in enclosed areas. And I can tell that it's only running at like 60 frames when I'm in certain areas or in battles. So,
Interesting.
I mean,
You're
take it
sitting
for
there
what
like,
it's worth.
could use some more teraflops. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Just one more. Just one
All
more
right, let's
teraflop.
move on. Just a little. That was just a little story here. Our next one is a somber one. Fucking rest in peace, Akira Toriyama.
Not
Oh,
cool,
The
man.
progenitor of Dragon Ball has passed away far too early. And I wanted to tie this in with a story because what are you gonna say?
yeah.
Akira Toriyama passed away. It fucking sucks.
Mhm.
He's
R.I.P.
made
to
so
a
much
goat.
fantastic
Yeah.
stuff, including
The man
the
was over
Dragon
9,000.
Quest games. The
Yeah.
Dragon Quest games in America, the first one known as Dragon Warrior.
Mhm.
This story I've got here: a fan has amassed over 1,000 copies of Dragon Warrior for the NES,
Oh my
and then
god.
proclaims that his quest continues.
I
Does he want
reposted
every
this on
copy?
Retro's page, Retro's Facebook and Instagram, and some of the comments were so great. But the best one was some guy posts back his collection of 1,153 copies of Burger Time for the NES, saying "Hold my beer" and post that picture. And I responded back like, "Dude, missed opportunity. What? Hold my burger is what? Missed opportunity,
Do you know
man."
that guy's? Do you know that guy's name? That subscriber's name by any chance?
I know I would have to look it up
The
on my
person who
phone, which I'm tethered
commented?
to right now because the internet's not being
Oh,
friendly
right.
right now. But it brought up something interesting to me that I had actually forgotten. A lot of people pointed out because at one point Dragon War RPGs back then didn't sell super great. Dragon Warrior is a great game. But they
Right.
printed, I was
Yeah.
trying to find production numbers because they printed a bagillion of them because at one point they gave Dragon Warrior away with Nintendo Power subscriptions. So there's a lot of Dragon
Wow.
Warrior ones for the NES out there for sure.
That's interesting. I was
Oh,
going to ask if one person collecting so many copies of a single game could artificially create scarcity in the market.
Yeah, there's a joke. I mean, there's a joke about the guy that has a fridge full of Jurassic Park for the Super Nintendo. Remind me, I'll find that image for you, or you can Google it and
Right.
find
And
it
that
pretty
game
easily.
sucks. Probably. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Oh well,
and
no.
then
For the
there's
Super Nintendo,
well,
that game's pretty good, but it's no
you said-
Dragon Warrior.
No, the Genesis version is way better than the Super Nintendo version. But the point was, there's also a shitload more Dragon Warriors for the NES than there are Jurassic Parks for the SNES. I would
Right.
wager to guess.
Right, yeah.
And so there are stories of people maybe trying to buy X amount of copies, but man, unless it's a rare title, it's like, dude, what are you going to do? I bought 500 copies. Well, they made 2.5 million. So I know the human brain can't like comprehend numbers more than like 1,000, but you still have a
Right,
very,
yeah.
very, very small fraction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's like a fractional amount. No, for sure. And it's also just like why? Like why do you want this many why?
The comments,
you know?
the comments were
name-
great. Yeah.
The dude's name is Ferris Bueller, which has to be a fake
course it is.
name. And he inherited this collection from another guy who he knows from an internet forum, and this dude goes by the name Space Jockey. So he had like something like 500 copies or something, and so then he gave
funny.
his entire collection to this other guy to continue collecting it, this Ferris Bueller person. And so now he's got over 1,000, and he just wants to keep getting more. And so I don't know.
So
He
funny.
wants to fill an entire room with Dragon Warrior. It's
The
really funny.
comments on this post when I made it were, I'm not a hoarder, but then the greatest thing happened. It devolved into people mentioning how they had to call and write into Nintendo Power for tips on this game in particular. Like,
Yeah.
if you guys remember, but Nintendo Power had a hotline back in the day for this kind of stuff
Yeah.
too. Here we
Yeah,
go.
yeah, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Someone
I've called
posted
it a few times.
I got it right here. Someone posted, I called Nintendo Power in the early 90s because I didn't know what Gwaelin's Love was used for. 1-900 You Are Grounded, Nintendo Power's hotline. I wrote them asking where the cursed
Wow.
necklace was. I called them about the Stones of Sunlight. I felt so stupid later. With Raph, was this you? This guy's name's Raffy.
Oh, funny.
But I just thought that was great
Funny.
because it made me think, man, what a
That's
great
cute.
time that was.
Yeah. Seriously.
Have you guys
but-
ever called the hotline? Have you guys ever done that before? Had to call the hotline for help for a game?
I have not. I did not.
I was
no.
a Nintendo
I've
Power
actually done it
subscriber.
with one of the Pokemon games.
Yeah, that's cool.
When I was a kid, yeah. When I was a kid, I called for one of the Pokemon games.
Sure.
Oh, shit.
I was a
They
subscriber.
talked me through it.
I was
like,
probably
oh,
yeah.
okay.
That's what they did.
That's funny.
I was a subscriber to Nintendo Power from probably like issue 2 or 3 onward. So I used it religiously
Wow.
for that kind of stuff. But I don't think
Wow.
I literally because the first one, I think the first Nintendo Power was Super Mario Brothers 2. Actually, right? Wasn't it the claymation Mario Brothers 2, or was it the Simon's Quest? I forget.
It
It was
might
really
be
famous.
The one with the blue Mario skin on the cover.
Yeah, it's claymation. Yeah, that was
Am I thinking of the wrong
Mario
thing?
2 promotion
Yeah,
thing.
yeah,
No, it
yeah.
was
I think
they
that
used to
was
use sometimes
coincide with Mario
claymation
too.
for that
Yeah,
kind
yeah.
of stuff. But just back to your Akira Toriyama thing
A
for a
little
minute, I think
segue.
the biggest bummer there
Yeah.
is that Square is working on that Chrono Trigger remake, and it is such a bummer that he's not going to be around to see that or to contribute
Yeah.
more new art to it. That's oof. They better dedicate.
There's a lot of
another
things
game
about
to it.
this that hurt.
Yeah.
True.
Sandland comes out April 26th. That's
Ugh.
that new open world game based on his
Yeah.
manga.
Right.
And I think that for our viewers, we won't get to play Sandland before it releases because we're not gaming journalists. But I think on the day of its release, I think we might do a retro roundtable on Dragon Quest and give myself an excuse to play
For
a
sure.
Dragon Quest game, perhaps. Maybe we'll do a whole Dragon Quest episode. Who knows? Let's move on, though, because I've got a couple more stories that are pretty cool.
Okay.
Sea of Stars celebrates 5 million players with a teaser for a new game mode called Single Player Plus. That's
Awesome.
going to be 3-person couch co-op.
That's pretty cool.
That's so fucking cool, especially because in the little footage of the game that got released by the company that develops the game, it was like characters were moving independently from one another on the screen.
Right.
They aren't following in a line, and so one character goes off to open a chest while the other one is climbing down some stairs.
Do you have to stay on the screen together though? Like it's couch co-op, so you have to stay on the screen.
It looked like if they got too far from one another, one of the characters goes into a bubble and then goes to where the leader is.
Not like Final Fantasy Crystal
that's really
Chronicles
cool.
where you had to stay with the damn bucket.
Right. Ugh. And
So-
then they alongside with that, they also announced physical editions of the game coming to all
I already
consoles,
pre-ordered one.
Switch, PlayStation.
I already
and
pre-ordered the
Xbox.
Switch one.
I know. It's so
Just
funny.
collect it. So that's interesting though too,
I want
because
a copy for the Switch, honestly.
if you ever checked out if you guys didn't know, Secret of Mana for the Super Nintendo, even if you plug in a multi-tap, is multiplayer. You can play 3 different players and each of you controlling the different characters, but that's an action RPG.
Yeah.
Sea of Stars is turn-based, so like
Okay.
I don't know, it seems like it'd be like constantly broken up by another battle.
Have you
Yeah.
ever played For the King?
No.
You ever heard of it? No.
Yes.
So For the King is a sort of like a tabletop RPG that has turn-based combat, and you play multiplayer. And I'd imagine it probably works something like that. But it works surprisingly well. I didn't think it would work either, but it actually does kind of work in a turn-based thing with multiplayer. It's kind of fun.
Okay.
Yeah, I presume that since Sea of Stars has like the sort of Mario RPG timed attack things, that's the main thing you'll be doing as your own individual characters along with
I don't know, it's
exploring,
weird.
whatever.
Like that game has real-time character swapping a la like Final Fantasy X. And so then are you just player
maybe you
slot
can just choose
2?
on your turn if you're
Right.
that
Like,
would make sense.
there's a lot
Right,
of
yeah.
character placement manipulation in that game that makes the strategy really deep and really good. It'd be weird. It's cool. It's just a weird choice.
Yeah.
I still got to finish it.
I would fucking I would say that'd be cool to fucking play
Get there, boy.
with my girlfriend. All right. And then I want to cover really quick 2 more ones. I know we don't have a lot of time here, but real quick, Yoshi P said Final Fantasy 14's for babies. It's
Wait, what?
Yoshi P, the director of Final Fantasy XIV, the acclaimed MMORPG that we talk about constantly,
Oh, Yoshi.
made a statement that he thinks that the past couple years the game's been too easy. He said that, he said a bunch of things like, in a platformer, if there are nothing to fall into, then the game might be
Yeah.
easy, but it's also incredibly boring. And I think that Final Fantasy XIV has been like a platformer with no pitfalls, so I'm going to work on making it harder.
I think Venny made this
Which
comment
sucks
before.
for me because that's like my barrier
No,
for entry in that game is like, it's really hard.
So here's the catch-22 that makes that awesome, because he's completely right. Like, it very much so, unless you go to the Savage and Extreme content, it holds your hand the whole damn time. But to that point, check this out, right? There's like 4 expansions worth of gatekeeping before you're going to get to this new hard game. I think that's great. I think now is the time
Right,
to say, like,
that's true.
okay, for the players that
Yep.
want more challenge, perfect, because they're the people that have already put 5,035.2 hours into this game and want a little bit more of a challenge. And it doesn't
So
hurt
long.
people like you, Mac, who are still in the second of expansion. Hey, that's cool.
Right.
It'll be good.
Is Dawn Trail out yet?
No, not till this summer.
No,
this
right?
fall. Yeah, not yet.
Okay. I didn't realize that there's like a huge graphical overhaul coming with that expansion as well. Did you know that?
Yeah. Yes, I did.
What?
They've been talking about that for a couple years now. They made a big deal out of it because, again, the game is a decade old, so it's based on an older engine.
Yeah.
So updating that has been like they haven't shied away from it. It's been constant talk of them showing off old versus new models. In fact, there's a character in Shadowbringers named Zero, or between the two, and like I said it from the beginning, like her model, her character is like a test model because it has way more facial features and facial changes than all of the normal characters, including your own like main characters, like the way her facial expressions she can make and everything. It was them testing the waters in the old engine to go into the new one. It's going to be beautiful.
Because, man, it looks gorgeous.
Yes.
It looks incredible.
That game
It's
already
always
is
sort
beautiful.
of had that anime-y. Yeah, it's had a nice style, but now it looks like they're just going full bore into like, it looks like Final Fantasy 16. Like, it just looks nice
and the
as
shadows and the shaders.
hell.
And there's a whole race of Auras that have the scales and stuff on their face and stuff.
If they reverse apply that to the old like expansions, you know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
Like if they make the whole game look that incredible, like then it's like
if this
man,
update applies to like the old,
that might
that'd
be
cool.
worth going back into that bad boy.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. The character models, obviously, yes, because it's going to affect it engine wide, right? But I don't know, like, that's a good question, how it's going to affect like old areas and old buildings and all those kinds of things if it just up-reses it across the board.
What about the models for all the mobs, the models for all the bosses? Like,
will that update?
Reskin all those?
It's funny.
How does that work?
Well, because even the people that work
update.
Yeah, even the people that work on that game love it so much. Like when one of the later expansions came out, they added flying mounts, right? That was in I think in Shadowbringers, they added flying mounts. And so one of the things they had said was, in all the new areas, you'll be able to use these flying mounts. But then they said, but unfortunately, you won't be able to use the flying mounts in the older areas because that's a lot of work. Like 3 months later, he's like, so we have like 4 really dedicated team members who just like threw all their hobbies out the window and went to all the old areas and fixed the codes so that you can fly in them. So in next month's update, you'll be able to fly everywhere. I'm like, holy shit.
Wow.
Even the people that work on the game love it.
Wow.
So,
that's how good it. Yeah. World of Warcraft. Damn, that's incredible. God, I wish you didn't have to pay every month to play.
That's the thing I was about to say. Is like
But
my
you don't
only real barrier of entry is the monthly thing.
Yeah.
If you could fathom how many hours you would have to play before you have to pay, you wouldn't bother you that much.
That's true. Yeah, you're right.
You have a whole other expansion and a half.
You only have to pay after a certain level.
Yeah.
Right? Okay.
And you don't need to be past that level until you get to a certain expansion. So
let's move on, or real quick, this last story I wanted to hit. So, headline: 3D models of 13,000 different animals scanned by a company called Overt. Let me elaborate. museums across the globe teamed up with this organization that is comprised of like 18 different international like science groups. They named themselves Open Vertebrate, aka Overt, and they teamed up with these museums to take CT scans of 13,000 different animals throughout time. And then they turned them all into 3D models.
Huh.
What? What?
For the purpose of what?
So a curated science. So
purely
I mean,
science.
literally,
Not-
they
yeah,
are. They are
okay.
now. They are now free to access. These are. You can find a curated list at the Florida Museum's website, and you
What?
can find a full catalog via the Morphosource website. It is. This first thing I thought of was modeling for video games.
Sure,
real,
sure.
yeah.
sure.
People now have the actual skeletons of thousands of animals at their disposal that are already 3D models. Their main, these science dorks were like, oh, we're gonna use it to figure out locomotion or whatever. But I'm saying art. I'm saying just the like, I don't know, things like 3D printing, for example, is like a thing where sometimes in nature has used thousands of years of evolution to design something that's really good at something because of its form function. So now,
Oh, I see what you mean.
you know what I'm
yeah.
saying? So like things like polymers will sometimes use like, it turns out that a dragonfly's wing is really strong because of the way just thousands of years of evolution have, nested the pieces or whatever that it's made out of, and then you get carbon fiber or whatever. In the future, I don't know. Different animals have, like I said, different form factors that help them do different things. And now, through a humongous effort that took like 7 years or something like this, these just free models of the skeletons of thousands of different animals.
That's
So what I'm
cool.
hearing is that in the future, I might be able to wear a dragonfly exosuit.
Yes,
Made-
exactly.
Made of,
And you'll have to
like,
pay
yeah.
nothing for it because it's public knowledge. This is public information.
Not to the company that makes the dragonfly suit.
If you want the good dragonfly, if you want the Pepsi brand dragonfly suit, it's going to cost you. Let's move on to our next segment. All right, we're back, and we miss Mr. Venacor so much that we're not going to wait to get to his bonus round. So I'm going to toss it to Vinny, and we're all going to see what he's got for us this week.
What's up, friends? Vinny here with your bonus round. Guys, this time, I'm gonna need a money flex. Money flex, money flex, money flex. What is the most you've ever spent on one video game? Whether that means buying it on multiple times on multiple platforms, spending shit tons on subscriptions or DLC content. Fess up, boys. Fess up, boys. Where did you put the money? Show me the money. I will go first. By far, the most I've ever spent on a video game is Final Fantasy XIV Online. Break it down for you. $495 just on music albums alone because I'm nuts. $356 on games. Roughly $1,320 for a 10+ year active subscription. $300 for a statue that I might have gotten a cool emote with. And then $35 on that cool chocobo carriage so I could cart my friends around. Guys, what is the most you've ever spent on a video game? Show me that money flex. Back to you, Mac.
Ooh.
Excellent, excellent, excellent.
Money flex.
Always with the highly produced videos. Damn you, Vinny. Money flex, money flex, money flex.
Yeah, I
Man,
don't
that
have
Final
much money
Fantasy
to flex.
14 bill, I wasn't adding it up in my head because the numbers were so big, and I was just thinking, wow, that's so much. That's so much. Thousands of hours of gameplay. That's incredible, you guys. I will go first, as I am the named host of the show, as I normally do. For this, Vinny, I'm probably gonna have to go with Skyrim. I
that's a
have
good choice.
purchased Skyrim, I think 5 times in total. That includes the expansion one where they added all of the mods into it. That, of course, includes buying it separately on my computer when I was in between systems. Skyrim, as far as just buying the same game too many times at full retail price every time, like a goddamn fool.
What
Behind
year
that,
is it?
it comes. Skyrim just came out. Funny enough, I was recently combing through my PayPal as I may have had some unwarranted transactions go through on my credit card, and I was going through some old receipts and saw that during the year 2020, I think it maybe 2019, I had spent something like $80 on Overwatch. And I don't know how that happened because that game's free. I don't know when that I went back and went, did somebody steal my identity? And then I went into the launcher and went, no, I stole my identity. I was
I stole
some
my
sort
own
of
money.
Overwatch pro at the time. I don't know why I would spend so much money on that game. I'm so bad at it. Why would I spend that
You
much
look
money?
cool. You
on
look
that
cool
game?
doing it.
Oh
Yeah,
man, you got
right?
the Tracer spacesuits, and that was the prime time for loot boxing, and it was just like oof, but
Yeah,
boof,
at
man.
least
I
you
was
look
getting tricked like a
good.
motherfucker. I didn't even. I had a good job at the time, and I guess I just didn't even notice the money flying out the door. Fucking damn you,
Damn.
Blizzard. I was just about to toss it to Buck, but he's got to go.
No, I
Oh, he
had
might
to
be
grab
grabbing a
something off
prop,
the
I'm not
shelf.
sure.
I bet he is.
Yeah, he's grabbing a prop. He's got a
That's
prop.
my.
He's got a
I'm
prop.
not much of a. I've never been an MMO person, and I'm not a microtransaction person. I thought.
Yeah.
So that's it for me, Buck. I'd like to hear what you have to say as a avid collector gamer.
Yeah, that's the catch-22 for me, right? I'm not much of a microtransaction guy. If I had to say, I mean, I'm probably there. I didn't spend nearly as much money as Venny, dear God, but I have had a 14 subscription for 8 or 10 years. But I don't know soundtracks, any of this other
Blankety blank. How
stuff.
many hours? How many? 5,692.
I have a lot of hours, but I didn't spend a ton of extra money to do so. Probably the one that beats me up the absolute most is Final Fantasy 4/2, which I own so many times over. I own it. I own it for obviously the Super Nintendo, and again for the GBA when it came out, and then again for the DS when it came out, and on Steam
DS,
and all the new ones. I even own it. I don't even own one of
PlayStation,
these.
right?
Yes, Chronicles or whichever anthology, whichever one had 4 in it.
Chronicles?
Yep, I have that one
Yeah,
there as
whichever
well
one that
too.
is.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
I owned
Yep.
I owned After Years on the phone before it came out on Steam, which is the sequel with Cecil and Rosa's son Theodore in it. So that's a technical spin-off, same thing.
Is
I
that the one that was on
Oh.
like flip phones?
Was
Was
it
that the one that
was
was
we
like
didn't
an
get it, but
old
then we
phone
got it on
game,
like
or-
iPhone. It was on flip phones, and then it was on like iPhone and
Okay,
DS
okay,
and
that's
Steam.
what I.
And I own all of those too, including. And then they did the re-release with the 3D graphics.
I bet he
on
owns the iOS
DS.
one too.
Yes, I own the iOS one too, but I don't even own one of these. But on my trip to Japan 5 or 6 years ago, I picked up a sealed copy on the Wonder Swan Color. I don't even own.
What the hell's a Wonder Swan color?
SNK Neo Geo
What
made
even is a
made
Wonder Swan?
and SNK Neo Geo made this handheld console back in the mid 90s to compete with the Game Boy Color. And this is a copy that I picked up for 1,000 yen, which was like $10 back then. Sealed copy.
Right, yeah.
Wow.
Of Final Fantasy IV for the Wonder Swan Color. I own this game so many damn times.
That's fucking gorgeous.
It's because it is a very nice yes, but I even have like little chibi figures I can see from here of Rosa and Cecil and Kane and Edge and Rydia and Sid.
I know you do.
And so much Final Fantasy IV shit.
One of
That's
the best
awesome,
games of
though.
all time.
I know, right? Yeah.
Raph.
For me, it would have to. I do like to buy a lot of games on different platforms or whatnot. But the one that I own for the most platforms is not actually a singular game; it's a franchise. But the Resident Evil games, I have all of the modern ones, and then the Resident Evil 1 remake. I guess Resident Evil 1 remake would probably be the one that I own on the most. But I have,
that's so
Resident Evil
good.
2 remake on the PS4,
True, yeah.
Resident Evil 1 remake on PC, Resident Evil 2 remake on here. I have like all of them on PC. I even have this right here. Outbreak.
I have file one.
Oh,
I have
man,
file
that
2
game,
also.
Fuck.
I played it back in the day on my PS2.
Yes, we
on
did.
my PS2 with the hard drive, with the modem, and played both of those.
Out of the survival horror genre, amongst my favorite games,
yes.
you know, I does them as a meta thing. Does Steam in general count? Because I've spent too much money on Steam.
Yeah, well,
That's
it's
those
the
are just
sales.
games. That
It's the
doesn't count.
sales.
No.
I tell you what, though,
Yeah,
kids,
yeah,
if you
yeah,
never
yeah,
played
no.
the remake of the first Resident Evil game, do yourself a favor
It's
and
good.
find it on any one of the.
Yeah.
You will look up what year it came out, and you won't believe it because it is so effing
Yeah.
pretty.
Graphics.
It was a GameCube game
It looks
originally,
gorgeous.
and it is so
Yep.
stinking
Mhm.
pretty. You're just like, how did they do this?
I have it on the Switch, and it's probably one of my favorite games ever. Honestly,
Yeah. It was the one that premiered the defense weapons, if I'm not
Yes,
mistaken.
with the
I think it's the first
did-
one where you have
Yeah.
the knives that you
with the
can-
knife and the
that.
stun
Because it
grenade
wasn't
and
in
all that stuff.
4.
No, and it wasn't in Zero either.
I think it also introduced the Crimson Heads, which
Yeah, well, I think they're
was
only in that
The
game.
fastest,
Yeah,
fastest
yeah,
the
exactly,
most
yeah.
zombies.
anxiety-inducing thing of any Resident Evil ever.
You have to
I
go
didn't
back
know
and
they
burn
were a
the
thing
bodies.
until
Yeah.
I walked into a room.
Yeah.
No, yeah, I walked into a room. I was like, yeah, I'm safe. They're all dead here. And then
Yeah.
it got up as I walked past it, and I screamed, ran down, and made it to the safe room, but I was shrieking the whole
That was
way.
my barrier to entry in that game because I was like, red zombies are too scary.
Well,
Yeah.
the coolest thing about that game that you don't realize because the Crimson Heads are so scary is that regardless of the Crimson Heads, the bodies of dead zombies do not go away in that game. In the early game,
Yep.
there
Yeah.
are no Crimson Heads, but the zombie bodies. I mean,
Right.
for a kid who's been playing since even when the PlayStation 1 day, it was like you kill a zombie in Resident Evil 1, Resident Evil 2, you come back and it's gone. It was
Falls
like,
down.
oh my
goes away.
god, it stays.
Yeah.
It staying there was terrifying in its own right.
That's enough. Yeah, that's enough.
We will
for me
probably
right there.
end up covering that game in great detail when
be
October
great.
comes because that
Or
game
Oh,
just
that'd be
Resident
great.
Evil in
kicks
general.
ass.
I would
Yeah.
love to do another run through, honestly.
I
Yeah.
could show you guys my Saturn copy.
Hey, maybe the Silent Hill 2 remake is going to come out by then, right?
All right, let's move on. Okay, all right. We're going to do a mini segment before our main event here. We're celebrating Princess Peach and the release of her new video game. We're going to quickly, before doing a deep dive on Super Mario Bros. 2, I just wanted to do a shout out to video game princesses in general. Obviously, Princess Peach is getting her new game. She's one of the most famous video game princesses. She now is voiced by Anna Taylor-Joy in a movie.
That's
And she's no longer restricted to that terrible fucking live action nightmare that is the old Super Mario Brothers movie. So we're going to round robin and talk about some of our favorite video game princesses so that Princess Peach doesn't steal all of the thunder from our
Hell yeah.
princesses. So I will go first. I have two. I have two that are on opposite ends of a spectrum.
Okay.
So first one, there's a lot of damsels in distress in the princess game, and games with princesses in them.
Princess game.
But every once in a while, in the princess game, every once in a while you get a princess who will suspend you in midair and cut you up with buzzsaw knives. That's right, I'm talking about Princess Kitana.
She
from
was on
Mortal
my list,
Kombat,
too.
baby.
Nice.
She was
good
on my
list, too.
choice. Good choice.
This is a princess who does not need your help. She's ready to fucking split you in half vertically like you've been put through a lumber yard with a crazy giant metal fan. She's also wearing a adorable blue bikini while she does the whole entire thing. She's the princess of Outworld, and she's ready to kick your ass. It's Princess Kitana from the Mortal Kombat series. I love
Hell
her.
yeah.
But
Good choice.
my personal favorite, which I'm going to have to take from one of my favorite video games of all time, my top 5 for sure. Okami for the PS2,
Oh.
Sakuya. This is the goddess, the main protagonist of the game who resurrects the wolf spirit that you play as in Okami. So she's the
Nice.
protector goddess of the town. That's the first basically 30 hours of the game. And it's just like this beautiful forest spirit who comes to you. She's the goddess of the sun and agriculture. And she explains to you that, evil is wrought throughout the world and that you are this ancient hero dog that she's going to now give give godlike powers to in order to. If you've never played Okami, it is absolutely incredible. It's one of my favorite games of all time. It is a PlayStation 2 game where it is
Classic.
very
And
much
Wii.
so inspired by Zelda.
Yes.
Yeah, there's a Wii version that's particularly cool because the main mechanic of this game involves painting. There's moments where in which you'll be doing live action combat or just exploring, and you'll freeze the whole game, and then a paintbrush that is the tip of your wolf's tail
That's
just
so cool.
comes from the forefront of the screen, and you can press down one of the buttons. I can't remember exactly how, and then use the analog stick to literally paint like a calligraphy brush on the screen, and you paint objects to make them like come to life in the game. So you'll draw a cherry bomb, for example. You do like a little circle with a stem, and then you unfreeze the game, and it'll appear. So the first powers you get are from her, and it's the power to actually use the paintbrush. So that is my love. She's so beautiful and perfect, and she comes down, beckoning you, and you feel so called to her quest.
Or if you're like me with the paintbrush, when that
Nice,
gang
good
is
choices.
invading, you get to put a custom symbol on your head and you just draw a penis.
Yes. Everybody knows that if you don't
The
draw
Wii
a penis,
version.
you're not playing the game correctly.
Hey,
And then they showed up all over the town. I was like,
But-
oh God, the whole
but-
town's covered in penises and it's my fault. Oh no.
Oh no!
Where'd all this graffiti come from?
Good thing I didn't make it more graphic. Yeah.
Oopsie.
Oh my God. Buck. Buck,
I've got
who are
two-
some of your favorite video games?
I've got two princesses I definitely want to mention, especially since you said Katana, who is already on my list, and she is amazing. And the first one is Princess Daphne. To slay the dragon, use the magic sword.
Nice.
Oh,
Dragon's
nice.
Lair, a
Good one.
fantasy adventure game where you become a valiant knight. It was just very funny, damsel in distress. She had zero character development, and then they made Time Warp Dragon's Lair 2, where he married her. She gained like 300 pounds, and the intro is her chasing him with a rolling pin. That was weird.
Yes.
But the
Right back
princess-
into Dragon's Lair.
Yes, but the princess I'll segue into that's also amazing princess worth mentioning. A heroine that doesn't need an introduction, but the heir of Alexandria will get one anyway. Miss Garnet Till Alexandros the 17th from Final Fantasy IX,
Excellent choice.
aka Dagger.
Nice.
I love mage characters in Final Fantasy games. I love them even more when you take a white mage and you don't pigeonhole them into white mage. And so when you take a white mage that can also do summons, chef's kiss. She was
Very
probably in
cool.
my party most of that.
She was also on my list as well.
Yeah,
She's
that's
one
a
of
good one.
she's one of the few Final Fantasy princesses that kicks ass. A lot. Her and what's her name from 10?
Oh, Yuna.
Oof.
Not
Yuna.
Yuna.
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
Well, technically a princess, right?
Yeah, I believe
No?
so. Right.
I don't remember.
That's one of the Final Fantasy games that I've never played. 9.
Oh man.
9.
I have it on
So,
the Switch, but I haven't
like-
gotten around to it yet.
Like most of us
9
who
is
have
great.
played every Final Fantasy, 8 was not one of my favorites. The draw
Me
system
neither.
And that's
really
a,
took me
yeah,
out of that
that's-
game.
Yeah.
And I don't like 3 character parties as much. 4 is more medieval, more traditional, and has 4 character parties. So 9 rather, really reined the franchise back in for me. Like even though the plot was very
Yeah.
weird, it brought that franchise back for me and just got me so excited for 10 as well, which I also really enjoy.
I
Nice,
agree.
nice.
9 is a hidden gem of a Final Fantasy. Raph, video game princesses.
Yeah, so mine actually comes from the Legend of Zelda franchise, and it's not the titular character.
It's the one that starts with the
Oh.
M,
Mine
isn't
is
it?
Princess Rudo. Because Princess
Oh.
Rudo is the princess that actually loves Link.
Oh,
And-
that's so true.
Yeah. And she looks at you with the face that I'm about to put in the chat. Go ahead and click on that link, guys, because those are some steamy looking eyes. The way,
Aw,
get you
yeah,
someone
yeah,
that
yeah.
looks at you like that.
That's hilarious.
That's
Get
really
you someone
funny.
that looks at you just like that right there. Yeah.
I'm not
I
gonna
just
lie.
think it's cool because she, what's up?
I'm not gonna lie. I thought you were gonna mention the Twilight Princess herself, Midna.
That I was gonna go with that, but honestly, I have not played enough of Twilight Princess to really speak on the character at all. But Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time is one of my favorite games of all time, and it's one that I spent a lot of time playing as a kid. and she actually she cares about you. She's there, she loves you, and then at the end of the day, she gives up her spirit for you so you can fight Ganondorf. Yeah, great game, great princess. My other one was a little bit cheeky, but it's the xenomorph from Alien Isolation, because all xenomorphs are princesses because they are now Disney princesses. The xenomorph from Alien Isolation, the most terrifying princess ever. That's my choice. Let's go.
Only princess you can play as in Dead by Daylight.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny.
Is it really? Can you really play as the xenomorph from Dead by
They had
Daylight?
hell
both
yeah, you
Xenomorph
can,
and
buddy.
Ellen
Oh!
Ripley
Oh!
last year. Yeah.
All right, let's
we
move
need to
on.
play this.
Let's move on to our main segment because we got a beefy discussion in front of us here, boys.
Okay.
Our main segment for today's episode, we're doing a retro roundtable on a very, very special game. I'm talking Super Mario Brothers 2, or as Video Game Donkey would say, Super Mario Brothers 2.
Mario Madness.
Man, listen, real quick, this game is not as bad as I remember it. I went back and
It's great.
beat this whole bitch.
That's
I
awesome.
went back and beat this whole game, every level as Princess Toadstool. Okay.
Oh my.
Super Mario Brothers 2, released in America in September 1988. Here's the kicker: Super Mario Brothers 2 is not Super Mario Brothers 2. For more on that, I'm tossing it to our in-game historian, the Megabuck. Buck,
Hey
take it away.
yo. So I didn't have to spoil Raph with this earlier, but the little tidbit I tell you, Raph, is Super Mario Brothers 2
Yeah.
is not Super Mario Brothers 2 because Super Mario Brothers 2, aka The Lost Levels, was a Famicom disc game that came out in Japan that we never got because Japan went, holy crap, this is too hard. The kids will not like it. What do we do? They didn't want to crash the video game industry again. It had environmental effects and really cool different things that would happen during the game, but it was just a more challenging game, almost like an expansion, as it were, to the original one. So you have to put yourself back in that time period, everyone. Sometimes games took 1, 2, 3 years to come to America from Japan. They didn't get released simultaneously. They didn't even get released a couple months apart. They would get released years later. I think a big part of that was they didn't know what games they were going to bring over, so they didn't develop them simultaneously, even though hardware is very similar. And so they had to make these decisions on that. So after Mario 1 was a hit in Japan, they were working on Mario 2. They didn't know if they were going to even need to bring that game to the States. So when it came to Mario 2, Miyamoto and some of the guys at Nintendo was like, no, this is too hard. We can't do that. Enter, in a roundabout backwards way, Yume Kojo Doki Doki Panic. If you don't know what Yume Kojo is, that was Fuji TV's 1987 Expo highlighting Japanese culture and products and partnerships that Fuji TV had in Japan. So the family that's in Doki Doki Panic, if you've ever seen this before, it's the mother and the father and the son and the girlfriend is the characters relative to, as you know, Mario, Luigi, Princess, and Toad, were the mascots for the Yume Kojo 87 Expo that they physically held in Japan. We found commercials and other fun stuff for them selling tickets and Lawson and other things that you could actually physically go to in Tokyo and Osaka back in 1987. Back then, and still today, really, in video games, in Japan especially, they had what they called adver games. Us in the States, you might know, you guys remember the Burger King games for the Xbox and Xbox 360s?
Yeah. Oh, yeah,
like Pocket Bike and all of those.
Yeah.
If you don't know the infamous Pepsi Man game, the PS1.
Yeah.
Adver games are not a new thing, and back then they weren't really a super new thing either as well. Japan does them even more than the States does. So they created Yume Kojo Doki Doki Panic to coincide to promote this festival that they were doing. So they partnered up with Nintendo. Nintendo started working on this. It got assigned to R&D 4, which is coincidentally the department that Shigeru Miyamoto is in charge of. That's put out a slew of ridiculously great games for the Nintendo, Game Boy, and others. And the game was originally supposed to be vertically scrolling. It would actually, they wanted to do a multiplayer thing where you stacked and grabbed your friends and stacked on top of your friends. That whole mechanic where you pull the vegetables or the bad guys up above your head all came from that original idea.
Yeah, right.
But when Miyamoto and between the hardware and Miyamoto looking at it, they were like, this doesn't work. This is too difficult. Just make it more like Mario. This is kind of what Miyamoto said. You ended up getting this great baby that was not a Mario game at all, but was a pretty big hit in the States. When they started looking at what they wanted to do for Mario Brothers 2 in the States, because they were like, what do we do? Do we create a brand new game? We can't put this one over. It's too hard. It won't, people will buy it and it'll do like Atari did when the games were shit. And people would go, oh man, they just pumped out another one and this is too hard and our kids hate it. And they were worried about another video game crash. And so instead, Miyamoto, in his infinite amazing geniusness, was basically like, just swap some Mario characters in there. They literally turned it into a Mario game. If you don't know the premise of the game, Mario 2 is that it's a dream. None of it really happens. That's spoilers. There's a limitations on statute of limitations on that because the game's like 30-something years old.
Right. Yeah, got to be.
It's Mario having a dream. But all of those different mechanics, like Luigi jumping higher and his legs kicking, that was what I think the Papa character did that, I think, in that. The daughter that jumps and can float, that Peach just inherited the same thing, and the kid that could grab items faster like Toad can. They left all the mechanics the same. That's why the theme just is totally bonkers. They explained it away with a dream, but they swapped all of those things back in, making that the Mario game that we know and love.
That's right. That's all. That was a fantastic summation of the history. I would like to just highlight some of the things that actually got changed and then maybe stuck from this game. So all the wacky stuff in this game, like the turnips and all the vegetables and all the things, as Buck was stating, these are all references to the actual literal place where this convention thing, this Media Tech Expo, took place. The canonization, like Buck said, of Luigi being just straight up taller than Mario was canonized in this game and just stuck forever. The leg kicking, as Buck mentioned. All they had to add in this game, basically, they added the warp zone sounds, the POW block noise, the coin sound, the invincibility sound, and the jump sound, just straight up from Super Mario Brothers.
Just changing the sound.
The first one. Yeah. But I wanted to highlight something that I think is funny, which is that this isn't that weird for Nintendo because Donkey Kong was just Popeye.
Originally, yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So was Donkey Kong 3. Those were canceled Popeye prototypes.
They were trying to port Popeye over, and instead they just said, fuck it, let's make something new. And they made Donkey Kong. And then Donkey Kong Jr. is just Donkey Kong with different, like slightly different programming, but it's the same game. So like this was like within Nintendo's wheelhouse to actually do. It's not that strange. Some famous characters that got made in Super Mario Brothers 2 that ended up sticking. Birdo. The Pokey, the stacky guys that are a series of cactuses, Shy Guys, and Bob-ombs.
Yeah. Wait, real?
The big Bob-ombs was invented in this game and ended up sticking.
That's true, yeah, because I don't remember seeing that in
number one. Obviously, in number 3, you get tons of Bob-ombs, but
Princess Peach and Smash Brothers pulls up all the turnips and all the other things.
And you're like, what is that? And it's from this incredibly bizarre reskinned Mario game. I wanted to also reference that when this game came out in America, it was a fucking smash hit. Yeah. It ended up being like the 5th best-selling NES games like to date. So this game, I for some reason in my head, I was Mandela affecting that people didn't like this game and that it wasn't good, but I was wrong. I thought we would get this and talk about like how it's so insufferable to play, but you know, as I stated earlier, I played through this whole entire game using Peach because of, like I said, our princess theme. And it was hard. Don't get me wrong. I played it on the Switch emulator, the Nintendo emulator. Had to use a lot of save states to get it done. And I got frustrated with it at some points. And at one point, I took a break and said, let me play Super Mario Brothers 1 because people love Super Mario Brothers 1, and obviously Super Mario Brothers 3 is probably one of the best Mario games ever.
It's one of
But
the
people
best
really
games
love
ever.
Super Mario Brothers 1, and I don't think people really love Super Mario Brothers 2. And then I played Super Mario Brothers 1 and went, it's not that much better. Sorry. It's not that much better. Super Mario Brother 2 introduces a lot of vibes that the Mario Brothers games hold, which is, first of all, number one, you can go backwards in a level.
Yeah,
It
that's a big
sounds
deal.
stupid, but it's really
big deal.
huge because what that does for the player is it unlocks a mechanic that wasn't in Mario Brothers, which is secrets. What I'm getting at is there will be things at the end of a Super Mario Brothers 2 level that you have to like bring all the way back to the beginning of the level to unlock some cool secret thing. And
Hidden rockets and
a
stuff.
lot of them, like it introduced, I don't know if it introduced, but it had that Mario vibe of certain levels are clearly designed around a single mechanic. What I'm getting at is there's an enemy in Super Mario Brothers 2 that rides on a magic carpet.
Yeah.
And you can jump on him and then lift him up, and then you get control of the magic carpet. And there's a level that just is like a platform and one of those magic carpet guys chilling there, and then just like nothing. So it's like,
Yeah.
okay, they want me to jump on the magic
Daisy
carpet
chain
and then
of
do the
carpets.
level. Right.
Yeah.
And so that is something where I'm playing and going, this is some Mario shit. This is,
Yeah.
that's some Mario game shit that when you go back and play Mario 1, there's less of that. There are,
Sure.
you know, a series of levels and they have motifs and everything, but there's less secrets because, again, you can't go backwards. And so there's just limitations there.
I feel like Mario 2 shares a lot of DNA later on with Super Mario Brothers or Super Mario World because that one had a lot of levels like that where it's like, oh, it sets you up right in the beginning. This is the mechanic for this level. It's a one-off level of just one certain kind of mechanic, and then you get to play that. And
Well, just look at the designs of some of those levels, the way that the backgrounds of the hills work, the vines that you climb on, those all became Mario canon. It's the motif of like,
so
especially
true.
like Mario 3 and World, the way that the hills and everything look, and that ended up just becoming a Mario thing. That all comes from Doki Doki Panic, the way that those rounded green hills and whatnot were.
Right. That's so true. That's so true. I will say that, man, I wish there was more music in this game.
yes. Oh, and
It hurts my soul, man. There's
Oh.
basically, there's one level music, there's a music for when you go in caves, and then there's a boss music.
Yeah.
And that's it. And holy shit, no matter if you're in an ice level, the game doesn't give a fuck. You're playing the same music it plays in the desert level. And as Buck referenced to the original Doki Doki, it takes place in a storybook that's like set in Arabia. It's
like Arabian
they're
Nights,
reading
yeah.
Arabian Nights.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I see.
Yes.
And so
Okay.
that's why like 98% of this game takes place in the desert. But yeah, man, just as a general gush, I thought it was good. I like I said, I've played it before as the other characters. I know all their different things. Like, you know, some of them dig faster. Peach
Toad,
can
yeah.
float. Some of them jump higher, whatever. I played through the whole game as Peach, who floats. I thought that it made the game easier. Buck's telling me he thinks it would make the game
Well,
harder.
because she digs slower, so all those levels where you're digging like would be a little more challenging. That's all. She's really slow.
Boy, they were.
I read apparently she moves slower generally. Like her main, the only real like
Yes.
saving grace for the character in that game is the fact that you can avoid like dying by falling off of things with her. But yeah, I tried to do the all princess run too, and man, I gotta say,
right.
I found this game so frustrating, but
And same thing.
still
Like look
very
at Princess
very fun.
Peach in Smash Brothers. She can float in Smash Brothers because of that
floated,
game.
yeah,
They kept
yeah.
it.
You know, honestly, I feel like Peach in Smash Brothers, like the main basis for the way that character controls, like comes from this game. 'Cause, like
100%.
it feels like the character from this game. She even pulls up the turnips, like you guys said.
Yeah. This game
but
was so
yeah.
formative in her, like in this game, she's credited at the end of the game as just Princess.
Yeah.
On Wikipedia, if you look it up, they call her Princess Toadstool.
Mm-hmm.
She definitely wasn't Princess Peach yet. I'll say that.
Right.
I don't believe that happens till Mario 3.
No, actually, I
World?
think it was like some
64.
Yoshi game.
No.
Is
Well,
that
yeah, that's the
right?
first time that she signs off with the name Peach, but the first time they mentioned Princess
Ah.
Peach was like some kind of a Yoshi game. I don't remember what it was called, honestly.
Yoshi
I
Yoshi
can't- I can't
Cookie
remember
or
off the top of
Panel
my head.
Dopon or something.
Right.
I think Yoshi Cookie sounds about right. I'll be honest with you. That sounds correct, but I'd have to look it up. But yeah, like I think Peach, like the name Peach, kind of like officially, the character kind of became canonized in 64.
So yeah, Buck, what are your thoughts in general about Super Mario Brothers 2?
So when we were a kid and you played the first of everything, the first Metroid, the first Mario Brothers, the first Zelda, all those games that ended up having, a multitude of sequels, good or bad or indifferent or whatever else. It's really easy now, 20, 30, 40 years later, to go back and look, oh, that one's good, that one's bad, that one's good, that one's bad. But when they came out, that was all that you had. And there was no template for any of these. So if you look at a lot of these games, the second one, a lot of times is drastically different. And Mario 1 and R2 and Zelda 1 and 2 are the biggest examples of that. Zelda 2 went in a totally different direction, and it completely splits the camp nowadays. There's people that absolutely love it, and there's people that just think that it's garbage, and there's like nobody in between that's like, yeah, it's all right. It's like this one or the other. But with Mario 2, it's just like, here's another different Mario. I say different, but it's like Raph said earlier, it's more like it slowly evolved the game. Mario just kept evolving and doing, more different things and changing things and whatnot. And that just felt like a natural evolution of Mario 1. As a kid, we didn't know anything about Doki Doki Panic. We didn't know what had happened with that whole thing. And so it just was like, hey, this is a really cool Mario game. Look at how they changed it. They added multiple characters. You can change characters between the levels. They have different powers. Like, that was cool for us as kids, and we didn't learn till later. When Super Mario All-Stars came out for the Super Nintendo, it was like the first time Nintendo released like a compilation game. And that game had Mario 1, 2, 3, but if you're in Japan, it had their Mario 2, and it had Mario USA, like Mac mentioned earlier, which they have now basically dubbed Mario 2 in Japan as Super Mario USA. And over here, our Super Mario All-Stars cart was Mario 1, Mario 2, Mario 3, and Super Mario Brothers The Lost Levels, which was just the Japanese Mario Brothers 2 with a shitload of water levels. And so that was the first time we got exposed and got to play and see those other ones. But again, as like kids, unless you read Nintendo Power, like they didn't really know that. You just thought it was, oh, those are Mario levels that got put on the scrapping floor and they put them together in a game. It's like, no, this is a totally different game you got, kids, So all of our friends had that game.
Yeah,
and played
honestly,
that game, loved
like
that game.
until you mentioned, like you told me that, I actually had I thought the Lost Levels actually was that, just stuff that was on the cutting room floor. I had thought that Super Mario Brothers 2 was the one that was, 2 in both places. I didn't know that. That's pretty cool.
That's why when The Wizard, that movie we talked about with Fred Savage, when that came out, and that was, oh, look, they took the same idea and made they made an adver movie for the game instead of an adver game for the festival. And that's why we all crapped our pants when we saw that movie, because we saw it and went, oh my God, they made Mario a better again. And they did.
Again. Except it's just got Mario in it this time. Raph, what was your experience? Raph, what was your experience with Super Mario 2?
My experience with Super Mario 2, I actually found it really frustrating. I had the hardest.
You got to play the hard game.
I want to say, growing up,
got to play the Nintendo game.
It's really hard.
No, okay, all right. I'm just saying that growing up, one of my favorite games, and probably the game that I played the most, was Super Mario Brothers 3, which is hard as fuck. I'm sorry, but that game is hard as hell. Great game. It's in my opinion, one of the best. What's up?
Squishy children.
Yeah. Fuck's on a delay. So he's getting our
he's got it
information
slightly
late.
delayed. Yeah. It is honestly. I had such a hard time at first because it just doesn't feel like a Mario game at first, especially because I was using Princess Peach. She's incredibly floaty. A lot of the stuff with the controls are incredibly sensitive, like climbing vines or anything like that was very difficult.
Oh Jesus.
And part of me wonders if that was maybe some sort of a limitation because I was playing it on the Switch. I don't know if there's some sort of input delay or something like that that's different from the two consoles. I hadn't considered that until now. But otherwise, honestly, this game was cool. It was fun. Like, it was surprisingly fun, even though I was very frustrated and dying constantly. I still had a really good time with it. I just wish that there was more bosses. I wish it wasn't just Birdo and the rat. I'm looking for a few other ones.
You fight a 3-headed dragon.
I got to that dragon.
That thing's really fucking
Someone
hard.
hasn't
And
fought
I'll
Wart.
say, no, Wart, the last boss. I was just about to say the last boss in this game is so hard.
I didn't
What?
beat the last one. I didn't get to the last
No,
one.
you just
I-
grab the
I had to-
vegetables.
I had to-
What?
I had to do save states in between each hit. You end up there's a thing that shoots out vegetables in the center of the screen. All the ones that shoot off to the right, those are decoy. Don't get those ones because they assuredly are going far too close to Ward. He's going to kill you with the bubble. So you can
You
only really
kids
get
are
the ones that go off
soft.
to the left. And then you have to
I was gonna say
throw-
Bugs got his face in his hands.
You have to throw these vegetables at him like in the 3 frames where in which his mouth is open, but before the bubbles come out. It was just like, oh my fucking god, this is impossible. It was just so hard, especially with
I beat
Peach,
it as
because
a
as Raph
child.
stated, every little movement left and right makes Peach float like 1,000 pixels to the left or right. Every little
Yeah.
button tap on the D-pad, she's so floaty. But yeah, I think my experience, I every time I kept picking it back up because I was like, I want to say,
Yeah.
I want to beat Super Mario Brothers 2. That sounds like a cool achievement to do. And it was just enough to get me through it. I wanted to do it for Princess Peach, and it didn't take too long. And maybe a couple sit downs total, a couple hours of sit downs.
Yeah, like I might actually play the finish this game. Like
You
I
just
might
gotta-
actually just continue because
you
it is fun. It's just hard, you know.
You just
which
got to
is
do
fine.
a million save states. I would go into a jar, do a save state. Come
Oh,
out of the
gosh.
jar, do a save state.
Jesus, dude.
No, I didn't do that. I only did save states like when if I got to an area that I was like, okay, like this is gonna be a pain in the ass. Let me put one here. I will say 2 things about this game. I did like something that I found very noticeable is because it's a reskin, you kind of see like the seams. You know what I mean? Like
Oh,
there's
yeah.
certain parts where it's like, oh, this looks like it's unfinished. There was when you go into those. And I think it was in the desert area. Well, one of many desert areas. But when you go into the vase and like you see your underground, the like frame for the underground thing, there's just no texture on it. It's just a brown line,
Yeah.
which is very funny to me.
You're insane. You're
That,
inside
and
the
I
vase.
also wanted.
You're supposed to be inside the vase.
Oh, that's
No,
true.
yeah,
I actually
you are.
had not even considered that. That's true.
It's still just a
Um,
solid brown. Like it's very funny.
I will say that this game has like the most terrifying enemy in any game that I've ever played, and that's that stupid mask, the Phanto.
Yeah.
Oh.
That thing made me run away screaming every time that I ran into it. You know, just it's very, very scary guy. But yeah, no, man, I don't know. I was very frustrated by it, but it's still a very fun game. It's still, if that makes any sense. I'm of 2 minds on this game, honestly.
Yes. It's almost every game of this age is going to be so difficult because they wanted it to last longer. So it's to be expected. I just more than anything, I just appreciated all the shit where I was like, man, this really is a Mario game. For some reason, like I had this, like I said, this weird presupposed idea that I was like, people don't like this game, right? And then I Google it and I'm like, nope, actually lots of people like this game. It's
fans, yeah.
actually hugely vital in the formation of the Super Mario universe as it is.
Yeah.
Shit, even the Super Mario Brothers Super Show is based off of
I was
Super
going to
Mario
mention
Brothers
that.
2.
That music, the music from the levels is in that show quite a lot.
Yep. So Super Mario Brothers 2 Verdict is a good Mario game, and I should have gave it more credit than I was going into it. Peach, you're welcome. I played the whole game as you, and it was hard as fuck for me.
Yeah, that would make it harder. Yeah. Part of that game was like
Yeah.
learning different, and in this level I have to dig a lot, I need to be Toad, or in this one I need to jump a lot, it's easier as Luigi or whatever. Because Mario is considered, I think, to be one of the better just because he's out all around. But Peach is really good in that game too. I mean,
Yeah.
the ice level is much easier because of
Yeah,
her
she's
being
good.
able to float periodically.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
All right, let's go ahead and close out the show. Let's give our what else you got and get out of here. Okay, for this week's what else you got? You know me, my games get drip fed to me through Game Pass because I'm a normie. So the game that I played this week in my spare time when I wasn't getting my ass kicked as Princess Peach and Super Mario Brothers 2 was Warhammer 40K Bolt Gun.
Ooh.
Oh,
yeah.
that's right. I
this-
watched you play that.
I have it too.
Yeah, so released in May 23rd, 2023, published by Focus Entertainment, developed by Auroch Digital. It's a boomer shooter.
It's
So
Doom.
if you don't know what that is, that's those first-person shooter games
Yeah,
that with the
Doom,
retro
yeah.
graphics and the arena battling. It's Doom.
It's Doom, Hexen, all these guys.
Yeah, so
Mhm.
it's a couple cool things about this game. One, I love Warhammer 40K. Anybody that's
Mhm.
listened to the previous episode probably knows that Buck and I have been into 40K pretty much since its inception.
Got 40K models on my desk right
in,
now because
like
I've been painting some
1992
banshees.
or whatever the fuck it was. And this game, I played a couple of the 40K games. I played Space Marine, I played Total War for a little bit, and I played the other RTS that they had, whose name escapes me right now.
Like Dawn of War or something.
And
like
this one, yeah, Dawn of War, yes. This one has fantastic references to 40K that are very cheeky and very like, if you know, you know. Mostly the ones that I'm referencing, like all the power-ups in the game, like that you get, are all references to game mechanics that wouldn't make any sense. I mean, they would make sense, but if
I
you
love
know about, you would go, oh, +4, that's funny. It's like, it's like and one of the coolest things about this game is that there is actually 2 sliders in the options menu where you can adjust the retro vibes. What I'm talking about is you can adjust the level of pixelation and you can adjust the level of light plumage in the graphics. So you
Cool.
can make the game look like it's like fucking for the Atari, like so unbearably ugly that it's almost hard to play, or just like turn it into like PlayStation 1 levels of retroness. They definitely leaned into both Warhammer 40K and boomer shooters in making the Warhammer 40K boomer shooter. My favorite thing about this game is how strong you feel while you play it. You're much like the Doom guy who always makes you feel like a badass. Space Marines in the Warhammer 40K universe are supposed to be the ultimate killing machines.
Mhm.
And in this game, you feel like one. You've got guns from the game. You've got plasma rifles, bolt guns, shotguns, grenade launchers, and you've got a chain sword, which is the 40K mascot melee weapon, which is the chainsaw housed inside of a fucking broadsword. And yeah, you just, every mission of the game revolves around killing every enemy in the map. And there's not a lot of key searching like in Doom. It's mostly just have fun killing everybody, which I really, really, really liked. So this is a boomer shooter that actually like checked a lot of boxes for things that I need in order to like them. So yeah, it's on Game Pass now, but it's also on everything, including the Switch, because it's like very, very retro graphics, simple gameplay. So whether you like 40K or not, I guess actually that might not be true. If you like 40K, you'll like it. If you like boomer shooters, you'll like it. Maybe if you don't like boomer shooters, you'll like it. But maybe it's only because I like 40K.
Is that what they call Doom
40K
clones
bolt
now?
gun boomer shooters.
I've
Yeah.
never heard that term before. Yeah.
Oh,
It's actually been canonized by Steam. Steam
Yes.
has now made it an actual official category.
that's right.
It started
there's
off as
enough
kind of
of
a
them.
derogatory term, but then it
Yeah.
became like they owned it and it just became
Yeah.
like the name for the genre.
So Buck, what else you got?
Today on the Megabucks Retro Zone. Submitted for the approval of the Retro Game Treasure podcast, I present to you today a sequel that needs no introduction, Wipeout XL for the PlayStation 1.
Oh fuck yeah! Ooh,
If
that's
you
a
didn't
good
play,
game. God
I'm not
damn
talking
it.
about the
He's always
shitty
got
game
heavy hitters.
show. If you never played the first Wipeout, which I own in the long box also, but this one was this is Wipeout 2 technically. It's called Wipeout XL. But Wipeout it's a futuristic racing shooter. In your head, you can kind of think Mario Kart, but they're futuristic, or F-Zero is a better way to put it. F-Zero with weapons.
Yes.
Right? You
Yes.
run over spaces a la Mario Kart and whatnot and collect missiles, homing missiles, mines, lasers, all these different things, but you're also racing. But the coolest thing is one, these games on the PlayStation looked phenomenal because the way the PlayStation drew polygons really lent itself to like the design of the crafts and the design of
Yes.
the levels and such. But the way that the physics worked in these games, you felt like you were in a high speed hover vehicle going a couple 100 miles an hour, and the way you could bank corners and kind of hover bounce off of the corner without slamming into it, like made it so satisfying to race and play. But the coolest thing about Wipeout XL is they went up a step from like just the drum and bass and the music of the first Wipeout, and they straight out went to like Euro acts and got Look, dude, the Chemical Brothers is on this soundtrack.
I'm the Firestarter.
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 The instrumental version of Firestarter by Prodigy is on this game and introduced me to some of that Euro kind of stuff. The soundtrack in this game is just absolutely phenomenal bangers at the time too.
Yeah.
If you never played it, Psychosis made this, which are the guys that did a lot of really great early, Destruction Derby and a lot of other great early games for especially the PlayStation and PC at the time. Just absolutely love this game. The first Wipeout is actually teased in the movie Hackers when Dave Murphy, Zero Cool's character, goes to the bar and goes to knock Angelina Jolie's score off the scoreboard. He plays like a futuristic racing game. That was a tech demo of Wipeout 1 that they played and then played on the screen.
Oh.
But if you never played this here, this is a game you can get through Retro Game Treasure. This is my personal copy, but I saw some copies in the warehouse there as well too. We separate racing games not only into their own category, obviously, because they're not sports, they're not fun sports, they're not anything else too, but there's subgenres you can select like sci-fi. And so you'd have to have racing and sci-fi selected to get a game like Wipeout or Wipeout XL. But super. I'm not a racing game guy. This is like Mario Kart in a racing game had a cool hybrid baby.
Yep. Yeah, we played the fuck out of that game when we were younger. Holy shit.
Yep,
Oh my
2-player
God,
split screen.
So much Wipeout XL. It is a fantastic racing game.
Did you know you could link
Nice.
two consoles
Nice
together
pull.
with this? You could. The old console link that lasted like all of 10 games. That's what that little icon is there. You could actually link two PlayStation consoles together and play like we did, but without split screen.
Nice. Raph, what else you got?
Well, I've got a doozy for you guys. As you know, a few weeks ago, I started playing Final Fantasy VII, and on Sunday, I met my enemy on the field of battle, and I found him lacking. I shoved my Buster Sword up Sephiroth's ass, and I beat the shit out of him. Yeah, no, I finally beat Final Fantasy VII. It took me like 20 years.
Wow. What do you think when you got to the final moment of the game where you're just in a room alone with him and you're like, what the fuck is happening? I'm all alone.
Yeah,
What's
dude,
going on?
no. I had no idea what happens after like that fight. And first, it was just like the fight itself. Like I was like, okay, all right, let's go. I got my shit together. Like fought Genova, beat Genova fairly quickly. One hit with the Knights of the Round worked pretty well on that.
Yeah.
And then, Bizarro Sephiroth shows up. I'm like, all right, let's do this. I don't even remember what I did, but I had Big Guard set up with Barrett. So Barrett was blocking us. And then I had like Tifa, hit him with I forgot what the hell I used on him, but I had her hit him with
Beat
something
rush, somersault,
to bring
water
down. Oh
kick.
yeah, hit D-Barrier. I brought down his shield. Brought down that barrier, and then I hit him with that Knights of the Round. Took him down from the Bizarro form, and then went into that Seer for Sephiroth, did the same strategy. He hit Cloud for like a third of his health. I was like, oh shit, all right, bring up the regen with Barrett. Barrett healed us up. Then I brought in Tifa again, took down his barrier, and then I hit him with that Knights of the Round one more time, and then something happened, all right?
Right.
Everything went quiet,
black.
and I was
everyone's gone. You're alone in the room.
No.
Yeah.
So first everything went quiet and he's sitting there and I'm like, he's about to use something on me. And then I just saw him evaporate into the clouds. And I was like, oh my God, I did it. I fucking beat him. And then you think the game's over. And then all of a sudden, Cloud gets a headache, right?
Yeah.
And now he's got to beat the shit
and
out
then
of
I
him.
end up in just the mindscape with him. And then, he
my
just,
God.
that crazy
1v1 in his
Giga
own.
Slash.
Omni Slash.
Or Omni
just
Slash,
he
yeah.
used the Omni Slash on him. And
Yeah.
And then that really kind of ambiguous ending to that game, where it's like, did you save everybody? And it kind of seems like you
Question
did.
mark?
And then 500 years later, Red 13 with his children. I don't know. It was an experience. I want to get a Final Fantasy VII tattoo now. I know what I think I'm going to get one right up here, along with whatever Toriyama tattoo I'm going to end up getting as well. And then I started Final Fantasy VI this week as well, which has been a very, very fun
really
experience.
good.
I'm about 6 hours in. I just beat Kefka, like the fighting Kefka at Narshe, and what's his girl's name? Terra just turned into like some crazy Esper shit, and then I'm chasing her down, and that's where I'm at right now.
Oh, it's one of the best games.
You forget
of all
how
time.
quickly things
I'm having a
progress
blast
in
with
that
it.
game
So fucking
when you
good.
haven't played that in a long time. 6 in particular.
For real.
Yeah, 6 hours in, I want to say 6 to 7 hours in, and that's already happened.
You got to get to the World of Ruin, then the game really gets fucking gnarly.
I'm excited.
Okay, that's it for our show, y'all. Thank you so much for listening. Another one in the books. Make sure to like and subscribe on YouTube and Spotify, please. And make sure to check us out on Instagram and TikTok. And lastly, you can help us out directly by giving to our Patreon at patreon.com/thegtp. And you know what? You can find all that stuff on our Linktree. That's Linktree/thegtp. Join us next week when we'll be celebrating Easter by talking about some of our favorite video game Easter eggs. And I'm going to make these guys play Billy Hatcher. No, I'm not. Just kidding.
Ooh.
We want to thank Crunkwitch for the use of our theme song, Clash of the Droids. And, of course, we would like to thank RetroGameTreasure.com, owned and operated by the Mega Buck, a.k.a. Buck. Retro Game Treasure is a monthly subscription service that sends collectors bespoke boxes of video games. I'm talking every console generation from Atari to the PS4. Simply make your profile at www.retrogametreasure.com and you'll receive games tailored to fill out your collection. That means you tell them that you don't like sports games. You don't want sports games in your collection. You don't get sports games. They don't give you sports games. They only give you the games you want. It's so easy. This is a no-brainer. RetroGameTreasure.com. Obsessed with video games since 1985. I can't wait to do this with a delay. My name is Max Stein, and I love the Game Treasure podcast.
It's so
bad.
It's so bad.
Ooh, he almost got it on that one.